And that whole process takes 6, 7 hours, 8 hours for the whole thing to burn and become ashes. Overnight, we go back the next day and see what is left and what is not. And those flames are huge. In India, there was this practice which is no more legal or which is condemned. It was common in many, many centuries ago. It was called sati, in which if the husband died before the wife had to sit on her husband's burning pyre.
Really? In which day and age was that? When was it declared illegal?
100 years back.
Okay, I
100
see.
years back, or maybe after India's independence. I'm not exactly sure, but
Mhm.
quite recently on the scale of the time, civilization time scale. So,
Right.
yeah, I mean, personally speaking, I was thinking of this because recently my grandmother passed away,
Mhm.
and I was looking at the fire and I was just discussing with my friends and family that to burn the whole body, you need a lot of wood and you need a lot of inflammatory things like ghee, which is saturated clarified butter, or I don't know what's ghee
Mhm.
called in English, but
Yes.
that and ether. There are these balls or thing that we use in artis which are
Mhm.
inflammatory. We call it kapoor. So
Okay.
it's white, which burns very quickly. So all those things along with wood we keep, and that whole process takes 6, 7 hours, 8 hours for the whole thing to burn and become ashes. Overnight, we go back the next day and see what is left and what is not. And those flames are huge. I was just sitting there and thinking how what a torture it might have been for a live woman to sit on it
Right.
and
Yeah.
be burned like that. So I was asking them, what do you think they were sedated or something? Because how can somebody bear some pain like that? But then the other arguments which came were that she knew it. She was mentally prepared that this was going to happen. Probably that's why she didn't rebel and all that. But
Well, there are different kind of things that seem extreme to us, but probably not to the people who are actually engaging in them. Like, for example, when people go to end their life in their old age by jumping off a mountain, which was a common practice in many, I think it's even still a practice in Indonesia in a certain town. And yeah, thinking about the Japanese spirit of dying for their Lord, if they mistreated him in some kind of way, or like what was happening in the Roman times of taking your life if you disobeyed the emperor. From our standpoint, it seems crazy and unthinkable in some ways, but I guess their mindset, their mentality was quite different from ours, and probably a lot of mental preparation was necessary,
mm,
and we would experience the same pain, but we would react in another manner.
another phenomena which would happen in Rajasthan, which is the western part of India. If the husband or the king loses a battle, the people at home know that he has lost a battle. Losing
Mhm.
is dying. He might have died on the battlefield. All the important women in the family, all the palaces had this well
Mhm.
where they could burn it. A lot of wood were there, and all these women would jump in the fire. The whole community or the all the women would jump because they didn't want to be left behind and misused by the invaders which would come after them. So,
That's understandable because there was a part in Lithuanian history where a certain castle was sieged, and it was also a common practice that the invaders, let's say, how what happened to the enclave, the Russian enclave that you were showing on the map before, Kaliningradas, in the old days, like in the 13th century or so. It was part of the Lithuanian Empire, I believe, at that time. And oh, I'm sorry, it was not part of the Lithuanian Empire. It was part of Prussia. So it was one of the Baltic tribes that went extinct quite a long time ago, before the Germanic takeover. And yeah, it was a place where one of the Baltic tribes lived. And when the crusade started, because crusade started not just to the east, they started to the north as well to convert the pagan tribes and pagan people. Prussians were kind of occupied by the warrior monks, which were called the Teutonic Order. And one practice was also to kill all the men and to impregnate all the women. So maybe that's conversion in their terms of the old times. But yeah, that's how actually the Prussians disappeared. So it was taken over. And yeah, when you look into history and you hear
mm,
these kind of stories, and when you the story that you told about the well, and coming
mm.
back to the castle, so also the people were sieged and they didn't want this destiny, so they also took their lives, which is a
You
common
know,
common topic, romantic topic in some ways that we learn in history.
So pagans in the Baltic were converted by the Crusaders who were Christian, but in terms of India, it was the more of the Islamic and Mughal emperors which were coming and trying to convert and doing all these things.
Yeah, but you
Hello?
reacted to it differently. Like you kind of took in part of the culture while retaining yours, which is a very interesting thing that Hinduism in those areas seems like it was not destroyed, but the Islamic culture was incorporated into the Indian tradition. So it's interesting. It became like some kind of a synthesis. And I don't know how that happens, but it's a very interesting way to deal with foreign cultures or like aggressive invasions.
Watch full podcast on Rocklaz.
Rocklaz Radio.
Rocklaz.
Rocklaz.
Rocklaz Radio with Tanmay Shah.